I want to welcome you to my little corner of the world. I'm Marguerite Crespillo, and if you don't know who I am, welcome. I'm excited to meet you. And this little corner of my world is really a place where we talk about how to truly build a business around your life, right? And we have lots of exciting stuff planned for you this year. So be sure to head on over to margueritecrespillo.com and add your name to my list to get updates and information that I really only share via email, okay? And so who is ready to kick this year into high gear, right? Make a little note over there in the chat if you want. Now, I've seen a bazillion classes, workshops, webinars, and more that talk about goal setting, vision boards, blah, 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 right? And I'm not here to poo-poo those, as truly I genuinely know how important it is when having a vision for what you want. So let me give you a personal example. When I was always a journaler and a goal setter from a very, very young age. And when I was 15 years old, I remember going to a friend's house who lived out there on 5 acres. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. And I really, really want something like that when I grow up, right? That's what I kept thinking. When I grow up, I want something like that. Well, I remember, and also I put down on my goals that I wanted it by the time I was 30 years old. And so funny story, I got my real estate license in December of 1993, which is the year I turned 30. And my husband and I had been looking for about a year for a property or for a home. And I wanted something in the country. My husband didn't really want something in the country, but you know how that works, right? And so I remember driving out to a town called Lincoln. And I remember asking my husband, what about Lincoln? He goes, I don't want Lincoln. I don't care about Newcastle. I just don't want to live in stinking Lincoln. He had grown up in Loomis, and Lincoln had a little nickname, right? So, of course, I drive out. Come down this dirt road. I come around the corner, and there's a huge oak tree on the property with a tree house in it. And we had our son, Jordan, who was 5 at the time. And I said, called Joe. I said, oh my goodness, I found our house. We're buying a house. And he's like, you're crazy. We're not buying a house. I said, yes, we are. So I drove up to the house, and it was a bank foreclosure. And I remember going in the back door because it was open and it had a huge kitchen. And I called him again. I said, you got to show up. We're buying a house. He says, you're crazy. We're not buying a house. I said, you better drive on out here because we're buying a house. Now, I want to add to this that everything is figure outable, right? We were, newly married, didn't have a whole lot of money. And this particular house required 5% down. And Joe's like, we don't have 5% down. I said, well, what if I write the offer myself and get the 3% commission? Then we only have to come up with 2%. And for all of you guys who talk about interest rates, interest rate was 10%. It was seller finance, 10%. And we were happy to get it. So we ended up writing, that was the very first offer I wrote with my real estate license. And we ended up coming up with the $5,000 we needed and bought that home. And that is truly where we live today. It's my dream home. I had just turned 30 years old. It's where I'm working from today in my home office, and I love where I live. So keep in mind that journaling and goal setting is really important. And what we're going to talk about today really has a lot to do with priorities and how important your priorities are. And I got an email in the middle of the night last night from a good friend of mine that I've known for many, many years, 25 years. And she has been in real estate for quite a while. And she's been trying to figure out what she wants to do and where she wants to go. And she had set some goals because she wanted to do some traveling this summer. And then she found out yesterday that she has some heart issues that are going to set her back. And she said in her email, all the goals that I set quickly shifted when my priorities changed because of my heart issues. So sometimes keep in mind that the best laid plans, right? Or what's that famous saying? I love it. It says, life is what happens when you're busy planning. That's one of my favorite ones. And so I encourage you guys to go through this today and really take a good hard look at what is important to you, where you want to be, and what you want to do. And we're going to dive into a bunch of different areas. So let's talk about what the difference is between goals and priorities, right? Now, a big thing that I see people do is they set these goals, wild random goals with no clarity. And I've been guilty of this myself, to be honest with you. You just throw anything out there to see what sticks. And honestly, I get that, I do. And I don't ever want to be that person that tells you don't waste your time. Oh, that will never happen. What makes you think you can hit that goal? Who do you think you are? Like my grandma used to call me fancy pants all the time, right? She'd say, who do you think you are, fancy pants? But here's the bottom line. There have been national studies on goal setting, both at universities, workshops. Tony Robbins even talks about it all the time, right? And it seems every trainer on the planet, including me, have a system and a process that they go through to accomplish things that are important to them. And what all of them will tell you is that your results improve significantly when you write it down. You really want to take it to the next level, tell someone else what they are and have them hold you accountable. And I'll jokingly sort of say, usually your significant other is not your best accountability partner, right? If you really want to knock it out of the park, get crystal clear. I mean, no doubt in your mind. Hyper-focused, and you become obsessed about that particular thing you want in your life and what you want it to look like. For example, I hear this one all the time, and I even put this on my own personal goal list every single time, is to lose weight, eat healthy, right? Exercise. But what does that actually mean? Because it's not specific enough, right? And we're going to talk more about this in a moment, but are you getting really clear? Is it starting to come to light for you, right? And feel free to post anything in the chat box that you want, and I'll try to answer questions as I go along. What I'm hoping you understand is that the importance of writing down what it is you want, but then take it that one step further and getting really crystal clear on exactly what you want to accomplish. Because that's going to exponentially improve your results. And before the end of this class today, we're going to talk about ways that you can knock it out of the park by being accountable for your results, all right? So what's next? Listen to, let's see, is my screen is not going. Hold on, something is not moving here. There we go. All right, so without goals, right, and plans to reach them, you're like a ship that has set sail with no destination. Now, for some reason, my slides are not moving forward. So there we go. And honestly, if you don't have a plan, you don't have any idea what you want that to look like, then you can't be upset as to where you are right now. Your life has happened by accident, not by strategy. And what I'm hoping to accomplish today is that we will create more of a strategy for the first quarter it is that you want and where you want things to go, okay? So what keeps us from actually setting goals, right? Well, here's the truth. A lot of times people don't, either they don't set goals or they don't have any idea about what they want. I know in my household, I'm the goal setter. My husband only sets goals when I get frustrated with him and he's trying to keep me happy, right? He thinks things will happen no matter what you do. For me, I want to be more clear and focused about what direction I want in my life and my business to go. So many people, they really just don't have a good reason. And as I mentioned, when I ask my husband why he doesn't set goals, he says, I don't know, it's never been my thing. Me, on the other hand, was making to-do lists as early as I could write. My mom will be happy to tell you. Now we think whatever I'll do it when I get around to it, right? Whatever it is. And the other issue is many of us have never learned the proper way to set goals like we're going to learn today. Now, this one here, it talks about being too busy, right? And this is where some of us might need a little therapy help. We're afraid we won't accomplish them. We're afraid of failure. Like somehow we get stuck in our head that we aren't good enough or that we're not capable. And we don't know what to do or how to do it. We struggle with the truth as we're just afraid. And it may not even be something you carry from your childhood with someone you said told you, who do you think you are? Like I said, my grandma used to call me fancy pants, right? And we've all met those people who've had all the odds against them. Every obstacle that you could possibly imagine was against them, and they were able to create some amazing results for themselves. I know for me and my history, I was raised by a single mom along with two of my brothers, and my mom was trying to work a full-time job to provide for all of us. And she would come home and take care of kids and the household and everything else. And truthfully, there was not a whole lot of time for her to help us with whatever we needed at the time. I had tons of obstacles that I could have used as excuses to keep me from being what I wanted to be. For example, I know that my mom never had enough money to buy us school clothes each year, and that was always a challenge. She was able to get us really the essentials like socks and underwear and a few school supplies. But when I was about 10 years old or so, I decided that I wanted to get new school clothes like all my friends were getting. I didn't know what to do or how to do it, and I was really literally just a kid. But then I heard that you could get money for collecting walnuts. Now, I grew up in Chico where walnut trees were everywhere, and they'd give you 50-pound gunny sacks, those big gunny sacks now that everyone uses for weddings. I think it's so funny. That you would take around to the neighborhoods and pick up walnuts. And they'd give you $5 a bag. Well, we could also collect soda bottles, if you remember those, and get paid a nickel a piece for them. So I worked all summer long to earn money so I could buy myself school clothes. So everything is possible if you want it bad enough, right? In fact, here's this video, and I'm going to try to play this video if you can. I hope you guys can hear it. Let me see if I can get it to play. Tell me if you can hear it or not, please.
I'm too weak, too slow, too big. I ate too much for breakfast.
Oops.
Got a headache. It's raining. My dog is sick. I can't right now. I'm not inspired. It makes me smell bad. I'm allergic to stuff. I'm fat. I'm thin. It's too hot. I'm not right. I've got shin splints, headache. I'm distracted.
Can you guys hear that? Oh, awesome.
Exerting myself too much. I'd love to really, but I can't. I just can't. My favorite show is on. I got a case of the Monday, the Tuesday, the Wednesday. I don't want to do this. Do something else after New Year. Next week, might make a mistake. I got homework. I feel bloated. I have gas. I got a hot date. My coach hates me. Mom won't let me. I bruise easily. It's too dark. It's too cold. My blister hurts. This is dangerous. Sorry, I don't have a bike. I didn't get enough sleep. My tummy hurts. It's not in my jeans. I don't want to look all tired out. I need a better coach. I don't like getting tackled. I have a stomach ache. I'm not the athletic type. I want to get sweaty. I have better things to do. I don't want to slow you down. I have to do this. As soon as I get a promotion, I think I'll sit this one out. And my feet hurt.
Don't you? I love that. Whenever I'm having a moment, I absolutely go play that video. It's fantastic. I hope you guys were all able to hear that. And so here's the thing. What keeps us from really accomplishing our goals, right? We talk a lot about what's going to keep us. We all have excuses, just like the guy in the video, right? For some of us, you know, we lose interest. We don't feel it's important enough. We're not specific, like I talked about. We're not honest with ourselves, right? We're not accountable. And so hopefully you guys all like that video. I hope you guys could hear it. I love that video. I play it on YouTube whenever I'm having a good old pity party. So what is the difference between goals and priorities? Really, what is the difference? Well, some of us, our priorities are a little bit different, right? We don't have a sense of urgency. And priorities help us have a sense of urgency. So let me give it to you this way. How many of you have had some sort of vacation planned, right? And you have a vacation 3 weeks from now, and it's amazing all that you accomplish and all that you get done when it's time for vacation, right? You get your house lined up, you got your pets taken care of, you have somebody to watch over your business, you get your email all cleared out and organized, you're getting your closets cleared out, you've got your suitcase all packed, you know exactly what you have to have in it. You put everything in a sense of importance and a sense of urgency, and it's amazing what you get done right before vacation. So what's the difference in the real world? Why do we not do that all of the time, right? We get kind of lazy. We decide, oh, it's not that important. It's not a priority, or it's not really stuff that we want to do, right? So let me get this. My slides are not moving. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about your priorities, how to really create priorities that are important to you in each area of your life. So we're going to decide what you want, decide what you're willing to exchange for it, establish your priorities, and go to work. Now, why do I say decide what you're willing to exchange for it? Because I hear people all the time say, I want to make 100 grand next year. Yet this year they only sold 2 houses and made 10 grand, right? And the difference is, are you willing to put in the work, the time, the energy, and the resources to accomplish these priorities? Like, how important are they to you from a scale, right? So for example, let's put them into your priority. We're going to talk about what is most important and when it's most important. For example, my friend I was talking about at the beginning of our call today had a whole different set of priorities until she found out she had heart issues. Then all of a sudden, her health and herself moved right to the top of that list, when that was not necessarily the priority at that time, right? Wendy, you said, are we using the handout? If you have a handout, yes, that'd be great. I think I did not email them to you guys, so I'm going to apologize for that. But right after class today, I will email them to you. If not, I'm going to give you, you could kind of scribble this out on note paper. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take our priorities and we're going to set them out what they're going to be. And we reevaluate them every 90 days, right? Not every year, 5 years, 10 years. You can do that too. But in order to accomplish those big, big goals, right, we've got to break them down into chunks, into little micro pieces that you can get done in the next 90 days. So first, we're going to rate your priorities. And this is what the form looks like. Let's move this over here. There we go. This form is available inside Real Estate Success Strategies Facebook group in the files section. For those of you with me in EXP, they're in our one EXP family, and they're available as downloads in there. And then I will also email them out with the recording on this when I get done with this today. So you're going to rate your priorities, meaning how are you doing in each of these areas of your life? Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. This is important for you to do for yourself, not for others. In other words, you can't do it for your husband, ladies, or for your wives, gentlemen. You cannot do it for your spouse. This is how you feel about each area of your life. And if you don't want to share it with somebody, you do not have to. For example, how do you feel about your love life right now? Is it a 2? Is it a 10? If you have no love life, it might be in the 0 range, right? And you're going to rate how you feel about each of these areas of your life. And we're going to talk about each of these areas. So you don't necessarily have to do this right now, but it's a good idea to really scribble down quickly your first reaction to how you feel about each of these areas of your life. And then what you can do is you're going to look at this again in 90 days and see how you did. Now, what I will tell you is that these things change all the time, right? For me, I'm now 56 years old. My kids are grown. My family is obviously still important to me, but my kids, when they were little, they consumed my world, right? And so that always seemed to be at the top of my priority list of where I needed to work on. Well, now that my kids are grown, I don't really need to work on that as much. I have great relationships with them. Obviously, I want to keep strong relationships with them, but it's not the #1 on my list anymore. And so think about this a little bit. A couple things to think about is how are you doing in each of these areas of your life? Now, I will tell you that frequently we hear people talk about balance, right? And I'm going to here to tell you that balance is truly not accurate. Like, I don't know a single person on the planet that is actually what we call balanced, right? They all have their opinion of how things should be. We all have this vision of what life would look like and what it should look like and how balanced things are. But the truth is, as I mentioned, your priorities change throughout your life. What was important to me when my kids were little is not as important to me now. And the truth is, for many of us, we're spending more of our life and time at work than anywhere else in our life. And so have you really built your business around your life, or is your life built around your business? In other words, if you are that person who says, oh yeah, I build my business around my life, I have this great life, and then somebody calls you at 11 o'clock at night, or someone calls you in the middle of dinner and you hop up and go answer that call, I would say that maybe your work life has taken over. And trust me, I get it, you guys. I'm a workaholic myself, and I've spent a lot of time, energy, and resources in my work life. But what I do know is that when your priorities change and you have spent so much time at work, all of a sudden you're going to start thinking about where you want your time spent. Like my friend who was all focused on her work goals this year, finds out she has heart issues, all of a sudden things changed. I know that for me, in 1997, I was full gung-ho working. I was working 100 hours a week. I had an 8-year-old son and a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. And then we found out my older son had to have a bone marrow transplant. We had to drop everything, pack our bags, and move to Minnesota for 6 months. And all of a sudden, my whole life changed. My priorities changed dramatically, right? Work was no longer a priority. Keeping my son alive was #1. Now, tragically, we spent the next 2 years in a bone marrow transplant unit, and my son progressively got worse and died in 1999. But what I will tell you is that it became a huge priority for me to drop what I needed to do to focus on what was most important in taking care of my son. Now, hopefully none of you will be in any kind of a tragic situation like that. We pray. But what I do know is that you don't want to wait until life throws you a curveball and changes everything. You want to make every effort you can to keep your life in as balanced as you possibly can. Now, please don't get caught up in the whole balance thing. What you need to know is you need to make sure that you're focusing on the priorities that are most important. So let me again be kind of real with you guys for a minute. Really, truly, balance is bullshit. But here's the thing. If you think about a mixing board, right? There's this mixing board and it's music. My son, Jacob, is a karaoke DJ, and my other son is a electronic music DJ. And in their studio, they have this huge board, right? I mean, huge board, like table size. And it's got all these levers and buttons and things to move and all that. And I said, help me understand what that is, you guys. And they said, well, listen, Mom, if you were to just take a note, one particular note, and just push it, it just makes that sound, right? But if you start to move these levers, it starts to change the sound of the different instruments, and it makes beautiful music. Well, isn't that really what our life is about? Isn't that what balance is so supposed to look like? But the beauty is if your mixing board is all one level and everything is perfect, the music doesn't have, there's no music. It's like this sound, right? And so I encourage you guys to not get super caught up in exactly everything being this perfectly balanced life. But what you need to focus on is what are your priorities. So what I encourage you guys to do is you'll have the packet. We'll get that sent out for you. And you can actually take good old scissors, right? And you can take these different categories and you can cut them out. And then you paste them on your priority sheet in the order that you want to work on right now. Again, there's no judgment here. So just because you have love life first or work first or spiritual or money first does not mean there's something wrong with you. It just means that's where you're going to focus your time and energy for the next 90 days, okay? Anyone have any questions about this right now? Excuse me, got a little tickle in my throat. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're going to dive into each area that we're talking about here, and we're going to set 2 to 3 priorities right now. Now, again, if you don't have the packet handy, I encourage you guys to pull out a notepad and scribble these things down. And your goal is going to be to write down 2 things in each area that you want to focus on and actually accomplish in the next 90 days, okay? So let's start with happiness. I love this one. Oops, let's go back a little bit. Somehow it is not. I'm having trouble a little bit here with these slides. Let's see if I can get it to go back. There we go. Oh, back. Happiness. Okay. So happiness is like peeing in your pants. Everyone can see it, right? But only you can feel its warmth, right? And here's the thing. What I love about happiness is that it is the big game changer that you will find when it comes to your goals. And the more energy that you have around being happy and having fun and making other people happy, right, you will start to see things dramatically change in your life. And so if you look at the energy that you create and what makes you feel good, you will see that it actually changes how you feel. Like when you wake up in the morning, right? You think about times when you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, today's going to be a crappy day. And then what happens to that day, right? Or you can wake up and say, guess what? I'm going to put on my happy dance music. I'm going to boogie around the room and I'm going to be happy today. And how does your day turn out? So for example, Wendy is on this call. Wendy Zapata. She's, every time I see that gal, she's got a big old grin and smile on her face. She's always happy. And she makes me happy just looking at her, right? So are you doing that to others? And what makes you happy? Are you making others feel happy? So let's talk about some things. Let's see, where's happiness? Here, let's move this here. Here's 30 habits for happiness. And I love this. This is so cool, right? It says, be kind, eat well, exercise, meditate, be honest, dream big, right? Be patient, judge less, smile often, love yourself, forgive easily, show gratitude, think positively, drink lots of water, believe in yourself, keep an open mind, put your needs first, right? Don't make excuses, speak well of others, listen to understand, choose faith over fear, make the most of now, exercise self-discipline, look on the bright side, avoid social comparison, see failure as an opportunity, don't take opinions to heart, select friends that lift you up, one of my favorites, let go of what can't be changed, and have a healthy sleeping pattern, right? So these are just a few things. So what I want you to do is to look and see what are 2 things, 2 to 3 things that you can do in the next 90 days that will change your happiness. Now, my husband, Joe, is a stand-up comedian and he has a ton of fun with that. And so going to his comedy shows is always an inspiration, right? And watch a funny movie, attend a comedy show, right? So these are all some great things that you can accomplish in the next 90 days. I know I have a great playlist on my music that I love, love, love to play. Let me see if I can find one of my favorite songs right now is by Pink, who I love Pink. She's one of my favorites. And let me see, I have what I call my pump up playlist, right? You cannot go wrong with somebody like Bruno Mars. If you're not a Bruno Mars fan, I understand. I also have a great song by Pink called I Am Here. If you don't know that song, I encourage you guys to hop on to Pink and listen to that song, I'm Here. Let's see if I can play it. Let's see. Awesome song, right? You can't go wrong with a song like that. So I encourage you guys to crank up the music and do some things that make you happy. Oh, I see Taylor on here. Hi, Taylor. Okay, so we're going to dive into that one. Did you guys write down 2 things? Feel free to write your ideas over here in the chat box. I'd love to see your ideas for what things you can do that make you happy, that can help other people on the chat box, right? So pop in a few things that make you happy. All right, let's dig into spiritual. So spiritual, oops, back up a minute. Hold on, self. I'm sorry, self. So to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment, right? And in order to say yes to your priorities, you really have to be willing to say no to something else. And I have this little thing on my desk and that I printed out and I put on my little desk in front. And it's from the Velveteen Rabbit. It's one of my favorite quotes. And it says, he said, you become, it takes a long time. That's why it doesn't happen often to people who break easily or have sharp edges or who have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, keep in mind he's a rabbit, most of your hair has been loved off, your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all because once you're real, you can't be ugly except to people who don't understand. That's from the Velveteen Rabbit. It's one of my favorites. So are you comfortable with yourself? I know that this is something that as we get older, right, we become much more comfortable with ourselves. What things would you like to improve in yourself? And do you make yourself a priority? I know that many of you that are on this call, I can see your names, do not make yourself a priority. You put yourself behind everything else, right? Spouses, kids, work, life, everything, you become last. And what I'll tell you is that what I have learned in my lifetime is that God, or whatever you believe in, the universe, spiritual, whatever you believe in, gives you this little tap on your forehead and he says, hey, I hope you're listening. And if you don't listen, he taps louder and louder and louder. And pretty soon he takes a big old brick and slams you in the face, right? And then guess what? All of a sudden you have to change. That's how it works. So keep in mind that it's important to make yourself a priority. So what are a couple things you could do in the next 90 days to put yourself as a priority, right? I know that Wendy referred me to a gal who does Reiki, and I've gone the last few weeks, and it's probably the only time where I really sit there and I'm quiet in my own mind for an hour. And I'll tell you, it's a huge game changer. So what could you do in the next 90 days? Could you go get a massage? Could you exercise more? Could you take time for yourself? Could you lose a little weight if that's important to you? Could you eat healthier? I encourage you guys to write down a couple things that you can do in the next 90 days to genuinely work on yourself. So again, feel free to type over here in the chat box if you can, ideas on things that you think that you could do for yourself in the next 90 days. All right, let's talk about the next one, spiritual. Now, if you're peaceful and happy, know that you're close to yourself. If you're sad and stressed, know that you're close to your ego. Again, this has to do with anything that is important to you spiritually, whether that is church, religion, God, your spiritual self, your inner self, whatever that is. So this is no judgment here. This is not about who is right or smart or who the God is. This is about what's most important to you. And yes, Yvette, meditation is so important, right? Do you feel connected to yourself? Do you spend as much time as you would like with your spirituality? Maybe that's a part of a charity or giving back or doing things that make you feel good inside. And what can you do to actually improve this area of your life, right? What can you do to give? I do know, and I hope that all of you know on here, that the more that you give, the more you get. It's just how life is, right? And so the more that you help others and do kind things, I know that there's been lots of creative ideas. Somebody took and put little plastic bags together with hand warmers and warm socks and gift cards and things like that that they hand out to homeless people when they see them. I know that I have several charities that are very important to me, one of which is Acres of Hope in the Auburn area, where they help women who are trying to overcome drug and alcohol addiction, who have potentially lost their kids, different things like that. And so what can you do in these little areas of your life to connect with that source for you? What is your source, and are you connecting to it? Maybe it means you need to get back to church or get involved in your church or your organization or charity, whatever that looks like for you. But what could you actually accomplish in the next 90 days, right, to connect with that source? Maybe it could be starting yoga, or as Yvette mentioned, meditation, or giving back to the community. What do these things look like for you, right? So I encourage you again, I hope you guys are doing this homework and writing down the 2 areas that you want to work on in the next 90 days. Because what's really cool is when you can mark these things off and you come back at the end of 90 days and you see how much you actually accomplished, right? Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about family. Families are like fudge, mostly sweet with a few nuts, right? So how are those relationships with your family? What do they look like, and what can you do to improve them? I know that your family, for just about everybody, is most important. And sometimes, again, it gets pushed to the bottom of the list. Maybe you have relationships that you need to repair. And I encourage you, if you have to repair those relationships, to do it before it's too late, right? There's a famous saying that says, what's more important, being right or the relationship? And I know that many of us sometimes focus more on being right. Biz. To make some time with your family. It could be having Sunday dinner, one of my favorite things to do. It could be planning a vacation or a trip. It could be just having a picnic in your backyard. I know when my kids were little, we used to go out and lay blankets on the grass in the backyard and just lay there and look up at the stars and talk, right? One of my favorite memories of them as a kid. And keep in mind, what is most important to your family, not necessarily what's important to you, but what's important to them. But I'll tell you, for children, especially young children, we get caught up in wanting to buy them and do everything for them. And what they want most is time. One of the favorite things that I learned, somebody advice gave me when my kids were little, is they said, all they want to see is your eyes light up when you walk into the room. And I actually got an email last night. Let me see if I can find this really quick. It was really good. I saw a post on Facebook. And I'm going to read this to you. It said, years ago, I learned something from Brene Brown that I still use every single day. When you get home to your spouse, kids, dogs, before you open the door, put a smile on your face. It doesn't matter how your day went or what you're doing next or if you're starving. For 30 seconds at least, pretend that you're so excited to see them. Make them feel like you were looking forward to getting back home. After all, they're your favorite people in the world, I hope. Now, I know what you're thinking. That seems like a cheesy, tiny thing, hardly an earth-shattering revelation. But your attitude sets the tone for the rest of the evening within 15 seconds of walking in the door. So really, it's not tiny at all. It's a huge deal. Because you come home every day and the things you do every day grind on you. Jordan Peterson says if you can fix 25 little things that like coming home, you will have an extraordinary life. Your kid's birthday party will be forgotten 3 weeks from now. Taking your family to Disneyland is insignificant. Coming home, that's your whole life. Fix it. Start today. So I love, love, love that. So what could you do in the next 90 days? It could be something as simple as making sure that you smile and your eyes light up when you walk in the room, right? Yes, I love, love, love Brene and Wendy. So what are 2 things that you could do in the next 90 days, right, to help change things with your family? It could be plan a family vacation, family dates, reconnect, or reach out to a family member in need. I know I was talking to my friend Robert yesterday, and he said the best thing about Christmas this year is the holidays is that his kids had all made it home. He's got older kids. And they were all in the living room playing games, and he was in the kitchen kind of putting some dinner together and stuff for the holidays. And he said he stood there for a moment and all he could hear was the laughter in the other room. And it just made him smile from ear to ear, right? So embrace those little things. I know, again, for some of you who have small kids, it's so easy to get so consumed in your life and forget. But all your kids want is time with you and to see your eyes light up, right? So what could you do in the next 90 days to help with that? All right, let's dig into love life. Marriage is a relationship in which one is always right and the other is the husband. What do you think about that one? All right, if any of you guys here, I'm sure that you can relate, right? If you have one, how can you make it better? And if you don't have one, do you want one, right? What does that really look like for you? Now, I can tell you that a couple great podcasts to listen together are Rise Together with Dave and Rachel Hollis. Joe and I had recorded a couple episodes of Crespillo Talk, but we got held up in life, so there's not many of those up. But Rise Together with Dave and Rachel Hollis is awesome. And, you know, some fun things to enjoy about your relationship. I can tell you that for Joe and I, we've been together now 33 going on 34 years. And obviously relationships have their moments, right? They can be challenging at times. And one of the things that we started years ago is on our 9th wedding anniversary, we decided to change things up because I don't know about you, but how many of you, your anniversary comes up and you're like, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. You want to go out to dinner? Sure. Where do you want to go to dinner? I don't care. Where do you want to go? Does that sound like anybody else's relationship out there? Well, what we decided 9 years ago is that we were going to alternate whose year it was to plan. So every year on our anniversary, we alternate. 1 year Joe is responsible and 1 year I'm responsible. Now, we did have to create a few rules. I'll tell you that the first year, our 9th anniversary, it was Joe's year, and he bought me 9 of everything for 9 days before anniversary. It was pretty cool. I think that one's going to be a hard one now that we're 33 years together. But the next year, I did a scavenger hunt, and I had 10 places laid out. I was at the 10th, and I came up with 9 different places for him to go with clues to the next one with all of our friends. It was a lot of fun. We've done a variety of different things for our anniversary over the years. But I'll tell you, we did have to create some rules. One of those rules is you can involve friends, but you can't take them with you. That came about because we had our 15th anniversary and we went with our great friends to Hawaii. But the place that my husband booked was a 1-bedroom with a loft. So that didn't work out very well. So we decided you can't take friends, but you can involve them. They can be involved in the planning. You can request information from them, or get ideas from your friends. They just can't go, right? And the other one is when it's your turn to plan, it has to be all about the other one. So if it's my year, it has to be what Joe would like to do, not what I would like to do. It has to be all about what Joe would like to do. So it's tons of fun. Has some great ideas about that. Maybe I'll write a blog about it and some of the ideas that we've done over the years. But What are two things that you could do in the next 90 days, right, to improve your relationship? It could be as simple as writing a love letter. I will tell you that my favorite things, I've told my boys this over the years and my husband, is when they write me love letters, right? In fact, I have this little love letter right by my desk from my son, John. And it says, "Dear Mom, happy birthday to the greatest woman in my life. No matter how many girls come into my life, none of them will ever be able to take that spot. No girl can ever compete with the love we share. Wherever life takes me, I will always make time for you. And even if I'm across the planet in a different country, I will always be your little boy, no matter how big I get. I love you, Mama, forever and always." Oh my goodness, let's make me cry. Hold on. Hang on. Take a deep breath. That is a love letter from my son, and it sits right here at my desk. So I encourage you, if you have boys or girls, to have them write love letters, right? Pretty powerful. Can you plan a weekly date night? My husband and I went through, I know, isn't that so sweet? My husband and I went through we have this little box of gift cards, different gift cards we've been given. And I went through them and figured out how much was on all of them. And we ended up finding a $100 gift card at La Provence. So last weekend, we did a date night at La Provence with our free gift cards. It was awesome, right? So these are a lot of the different ways that you can do to change up your love life in the next 90 days. What are 2 to 3 things that you can do? Okay. All right, let's move into the next one. Friends. Friends don't let you do stupid things alone, right? Friends is another one that gets pushed to the bottom of the list many times. Do you have any? If not, I encourage you to get some. Have you neglected your friends, right? I know that I have some very good friends, and luckily they love me to pieces and I love them. And so we forget about each other many times, but when we see each other, it's a blast, right? You always get to laugh and have fun and do all kinds of crazy things. So what kind of activities would you like to do with your friends? What are some things that you could do in the next 90 days to revive up those friendships, right? And make sure that you are keeping them alive, right? So for example, could you plan a night out with friends, plan a guys girls weekend getaway, maybe call some old friends to catch up, right? I know that today is one of my friend Renee's birthday. I don't know if she is on this webinar or not. Let's see, is she there? No, it doesn't look like she made it. But my friend Renee, it's her birthday. So I get to spend a little bit of time with her today and enjoy her birthday. So what things could you do in the next 90 days, right? All right, let's dive into the next one, work life. Sometimes I feel that I have the worst job in the world. Yeah, right, right? So first of all, do you love your job? And I'm here to tell you that if you do not love your job, I know this sounds easier done than it is, but I really encourage you to find a different job or find ways that you can improve the job you have. What could you do to change it up? Could you change your hours? Could you change where you work or how you work? Could you spend more time focusing on certain things at your job that you love? Could you start planning to do another job? Maybe start a side hustle, right? That could turn into a full-time hustle at some point. Who knows? But what are a couple things that you could do in the next 90 days to change your job? For example, if you're in real estate, right? Can you create a weekly schedule for yourself? In fact, over at margueritecrespillo.com, you can go sign up for a training that I have that says how to stop being a hot mess, that talks about schedules and how to really create a schedule for yourself, right? So what are some things that you could do in the next 90 days? Do you really know what your numbers are if you're in real estate? How many houses do you have to sell? Maybe you don't need to sell as many as you think to be happy, right? Could you start delegating things that you don't like to do, whether that's at work or home or different things? I have a couple classes that I'll be doing on how to delegate what you hate. So we have some classes like that coming up soon. So be sure to get over to margueritecrespillo.com and add your name to my email list if you do not already get my emails. So what are 2 to 3 things that you could accomplish in the next 90 days when it comes to work, right? All right, let's dig into, I think this is our last one, money. Money isn't the most important thing in life, but it's reasonably close to oxygen on the gotta have it scale. I'll tell you that the real estate industry as a whole, The majority of real estate agents are in significant debt and owe money to the IRS. Myself included many times, right? So do you have enough in savings, and do you have a budget? I know that budget seems to be a bad word for a lot of people, but I'm here to tell you how important it is. In fact, today we're doing a class here locally for those of you who might be local on how to really reduce your debt, do a debt reduction program. So have you put a budget in place for yourself? Do you even really know how much money you're spending every day? I know that I went through and actually took all my credit cards, all my bank accounts, everything, and put it all into this app called Mint. If any of you guys are familiar with that app, it's called Mint. And what Mint does is it helps you to see where your money is going, and you're going to be pretty shocked, I promise you. So do you have any money in savings? It might be as simple as starting with $25 a month and building up a savings account, putting it into an account where you can't access it. Like I have an account with Navy Federal Credit Union. They have 2 locations, I think, San Diego and Hawaii. And so if I want to get money out of that account, I have to go online, order it, they mail it to me, good old school, right? It's a lot of work. So how much do you currently have in savings, and what do you want to actually accomplish in the next 90 days? Maybe it could be as simple as saving a couple $1,000s. It could be $500. This book, The Latte Factor, is one of my favorite books with David Bach. I did a podcast with John David Mann that was pretty awesome. And so could you read this book? Could you open a savings account? Could you sit down with your spouse and really talk about your money situation and what it looks like? I know for me, my husband doesn't spend money, I do. And so we recently decided that I'm not allowed to go to Costco anymore. Only he can go, because he will go and walk out with 1 or 2 items. I don't know how that's humanly possible, right? So I can't go to Costco anymore. Only he can go to Costco. So what can you do in the next 90 days to change your financial picture? All right, so that pretty much wraps it up. I will tell you that why do we do this every 90 days? Because every 90 days helps keep you more accountable, and it's a short time frame in which you can actually get stuff done, right? Now, if you really want to be accountable, I can tell you that we are looking at starting an accountability group, an 8-week accountability group. And if that is something you're interested in, please PM me. If I get enough people who are interested in it, I will put it together. It would have a fee to it. A couple $100 is not that much money, but it can help you really be accountable, and we can have a weekly call every week, do a group, everything. But what is it going to take you to make the changes that you've talked about and written down? Now, in some cases, you've done the same thing over and over and over again for years. And we've learned today that it's the small things, the habits, the routines you do every day that lead you to the big stuff, right? When I think back over my career, I can truly say the secret to my success was consistency and accountability, doing the same thing over and over and over. And when I think about the biggest results I've ever gotten, it's always been really, truly because I was held accountable. Now, I've taught this same class so many times that I can even count, and I see 3 different types of people. The people who leave class and they throw the papers on the floor of their car where they eventually end up in the garbage, and they complain that they're not getting anywhere. Then there's people who go home and put it up on their mirror where they can look at it every day, and they do get some results. And I love when people come back to class showing me what they marked off their priorities list. But honestly, the best way is truly to be held accountable. And I've created an accountability group that any of you guys are welcome to participate in. If you're interested, we would meet every week for an hour and go over your progress and talk about each of the areas of your life we've discussed, and really help you be the best version of success that you want to be. If this is of interest to you, the cost is $197 for 8 weeks. Group coaching and support to get stuff done. We'll record the classes every week and post them in a secret Facebook group. The rules of the group are what happens in the group stays in the group, and our focus as a community will be able to help you actually knock those priorities out. So I hope that no matter what you decide, that you'll check in and let me know you're making progress, and truly put in the time and effort to make the changes in your life that you know in your heart and soul need to happen. I teach this class because I know firsthand how hard life can get. We all have stuff going on, you guys, between work, kids, spouses, animals. and that's one's for my pet mamas. But I also know that deep inside that your greatness is brewing, and it's ready for you to just open the door and let them out. Make the small changes, you guys, the daily habits. Pick one great thing to get done, then another, and watch it snowball. And you'll look in the mirror one day and say, whoa, I did it, right? That's my mission and vision for you, and I can't wait to hear what you do. If you're interested in the accountability group, shoot me a quick email and we'll get you all set up. Otherwise, I encourage you guys to head on over to Real Estate Success Strategies group. This is a free group. You don't have to be in real estate to be there. If you are also interested in being on my list, head on over to margueritecrespillo.com and jump on my email list. I don't spam you or anything like that. So thank you guys so much for being here today. I hope this was valuable. I hope that you get some great information from it. And I look forward to seeing all of your goals and priorities marked off your list. Make it a great day, everybody.